Yo, what up guys? I know I haven't dropped a video in a while, so firstly I just want to apologise for that. Secondly, I'm going to start a series over the next few weeks on each individual athlete that's going to be competing in the Pro Open show at the Mr. Olympia 2019. I'm going to kick this off with Roelly Winklaar. Now the thing with Roelly Winklaar is he's got this very underdog-esque persona about him, but quite similar to Big Ramy, where people aren't quite sure if he's ever going to win a show. They want him to, they've got a huge following. And I just want to touch on some key facts of what's happened over the past 12 months since the 2018 Mr. Olympia, where he's placed in comparison to other athletes, where I think he will place at this year's 2019 Olympia. Now, granted, it's hard to judge these things because we're obviously 2 months out from the show, so it's hard to judge this far in advance. But you know, with most characteristics of most people, most athletes, they advance in a very particular way and stick to certain patterns. So basically, what I'm going to do is give you a quick breakdown of where he's been over the last couple of years and placed compared to where I think he's going to place this year. And we're going to take a quick look at some screenshots of his current physique and conditioning. Now, obviously, Roelly placed third at last year's Mr. Olympia, which was his best placing there by far. The year prior to that, he only placed sixth. So, to him, it might have been a slight upset, or maybe to his fans, because he obviously didn't win it. But to go from sixth to third, and that's best ranked in the world, I think is fucking phenomenal. So obviously he's never placed higher than sixth place prior to that at the Olympia. He's always placed seventh. In 2014 he was 12th. So he's always progressed throughout the year. However, it's the interval shows I want to touch on more than just the Olympia. I know the Olympia is the big main stage. However, these other shows that some people might not take so seriously are where we see this slight faults, as it were, or we can critique slightly more because of the timing of these shows. And what I mean by the timing of these shows is these bodybuilding athletes have to time everything very specifically to when they want to compete in a show, because obviously they have to get their diet and prep and do their 6 to 8 week diet prep checks way in advance. So they need to know what shows they're doing ahead of time to obviously cater quite literally for that show. So one of the things I wanted to touch on was obviously at the end of last year, Roelly placed first at the EVL Prague Pro, which was fantastic. A third placement at the Olympia pretty much set him up gold standard to win that show, which was brilliant. Now 2019, we move on to the Arnold Classic Ohio. Roelly only placed fifth. Now, the worrying thing about this is in that show, yes, he was up against some what I'd call juggernauts, but he wasn't against the greatest. Now, if you come third and you've already beat Brendan Curry, Bonac, Cedric, to then go in the new season to obviously, in a high, the new year, new season, to start off on your first pro show and come fifth is a bit of a blow. Now, obviously, Brandon, as we all know, won that show. My G, William Bonac, came second. Luke Sando, which was a big surprise, came third. And Cedric McMillan came fourth. Now, to me, if I was to look at all these five guys on paper, I would never have Roelly that far down. He's a far superior bodybuilder to Cedric. He's a far superior bodybuilder at present, and I say at present, to Luke Sando. Because Luke's still coming into his own. He's still quite fresh on the scene, and I think he's got more potential. But back to Roelly. So to me, I wouldn't have minded if Roelly placed first, second, or third at this show. So fifth was quite a shock, and I was quite surprised because he brought such an amazing package to the Olympia. I was really hoping and expecting him to bring the same sort of elements and physique to the Arnold Classic, which he didn't do. Now, again, Maybe the show was booked last minute. I know these guys, especially with the Arnold and the Olympia, have to book in well in advance, because nowadays bodybuilding is such a broad spectrum. It wasn't like the back in the days of, you know, the golden era, where you only had X amount of bodybuilders, so you could presume X amount would be turning up. It's a dog-eat-dog fight to get on that Olympia stage, and there are a handful of people I could pick off the hat who would be ready for that stage. Not to place any, you know, particularly high placings, but are qualified enough in their training and physique to be there. So I was very, very disappointed that Roelly came fifth and he didn't bring the same package. I was hoping that him and his team would bring the same sort of physique to make that show a better place. Now, moving forward from that, where does he go forward from that? Like I say, old dogs learning new tricks, not really. The thing with Roelly is, so Roelly Winklaar's now in his 40s, believe it or not. I mean, some people presume that he's quite young. He personally is also coming very close to the end of his time in the professional bodybuilding world. Now, I know a lot of people are going to disregard that comment and, you know, say, oh, you know, you look at Dexter Jackson, etc., etc. There's only so much you can do, and there's only so long you can obviously compete for realistically at this level. Now, personally, I feel that if Roelly doesn't bring what he brought last year and better, and it always has to be better, they should always be aiming for better, I don't think he's going to place top 5. Now, why am I saying this? Well, firstly, if you look at, and I want to use this as just a slightly broad example, but say Brandon Curry, who came first at the Arnold Classic Ohio, he absolutely not just destroyed Roelly, he destroyed everybody. He destroyed William Bonac, who is my personal favourite. He destroyed Luke Sando, and he destroyed Cedric McMillan. Why do you think that is? Now, based on last year's placings at the Mystery Olympia, obviously, as we know, Brandon didn't do as best as he could have, and quite a handful of people surprised us. Some obviously placed better than others, especially people like Sean Roden. We didn't expect. We knew he'd be a top 5 contender anyway, but you know, this just goes to show some people are willing to put even more in. And I'm not doubting, you know, Roelly's work ethic or how he's training and dieting, but their coaches know and can compare each physique from each year moving forward. And if there is no progression, there's only degression, which moves his placings further backwards. We've seen this many, many a times, especially with people like Big Ramy, who play the size game far too much and they lose all the characteristics that count in the sport. So when you go for the size game, you're losing out on a handful of other key ingredients to being the perfect bodybuilder. And that's all the judges want. They're looking for the perfect bodybuilder. It's not just based on, you know, who's the most grainiest, who's got the bigger muscle bellies. It's the entire package. If you can't bring an entire package, you are subpar to somebody else, which is where Roelly has been falling behind. Now, I was over the moon last year when he placed 3rd. Don't forget, he also won the People's Champ Award, which was absolutely fantastic. Personally, I loved the fact that it was on a boxing belt. I thought that was brilliant. And obviously that came with its own monetised reward, which was fantastic for Roelly, only placing 3rd. My honest opinion this year, with who I presume is in the show at present, so if we take Phil and Big Ramy out of the picture, I think a battle for first place is going to be between 3 athletes. I think it's going to be between Sean Roden himself. Yes, I do still think he's a #1 contender. My second place would be William Bonac, not just a personal preference, just because what he's been bringing over the last 6 to 9 months. And third, I would honestly like to say Roelly Winklaar. I would love to put Roelly Winklaar in as a top 3, battling it out for that first place. However, in bodybuilding, we know from past to present, things never always go to plan. We always think a certain way and think something's going to happen a certain way. We don't know what's going on at present. There's still 65, 66 days to go to the Mr. Olympia. It's still a very, very long way away. And there is a lot more dialing in that these athletes are going to do. And, you know, it's not going to be a muscle size game this far out. It's basically who can get the diet down to point, but still keep and retain those big, full muscle bellies to obviously demonstrate striations, etc. So that's what I think. I think Roelly needs to bring his fucking A game like he did last Mr. Olympia 2018. I really hope he does. I do love Roelly Winklaar, not just as an athlete, but as a person, as a human. I think, and this is where we need to start taking a step back. I know we judge these people as athletes and on stage, but they are people. They are humans. So from that, I want to know your comments, honest opinions, guys, because I know Roelly has a fantastic fan base. He has one of the best fan bases of most of the bodybuilders I know. Do you personally think he's a top 5 contender again? Do you think he's a top 3 contender? Do you think Roelly Winklaar has got it in his tank, in his arsenal, to come and destroy all? And remember, that's what he's got to do. He's got to destroy Sean Roden. He's got to destroy William Bonac, Brandon Curry. These are not easy feats. Comment below, guys. I'd love to hear your opinions. Let's talk about it. I've been Williams Fitness. You've been you. Peace.